Hey folks, welcome in. It's another episode of a Nichols Worth. Thank you for joining me here on the show. I am your host tonight and every night here on the program at 8 p.m. Keaton Nichols. Check me out on the socials at Keaton D. Nichols in case you're watching this from a share or somebody's suggestion and you're like, who is this guy? At Keaton D. Nichols is where you can find me there at the bottom of the screen. And happy Thursday out there to everybody. I hope everyone's been having a great week so far. Just a little programming note. I will be off tomorrow, so this is kind of like the Friday show of the week. You got to get it all in in tonight before this weekend, of course. So I hope everyone gets in on the conversation as well. You're welcome to do that. That's the rules of the show, pretty much. You get to participate how you wish. I suggest commenting. Whichever way that you are listening, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch tonight. That's where we're streaming from. And also on Instagram. You can leave your comment and I'll read it for you here on the show. So excited to get into the topics tonight. Appreciate all the folks for joining in. Like I said, make sure you give us a share on your timelines. All right, so tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about the NFL and the anthem process, changing up the anthem process again. We're going to talk about a Congresswoman's arrest at the Capitol today, and a document that was leaked from the Russian Kremlin that has some very interesting, if you will, information on it. But first, let's take a look at Facebook. Yes, I always love critiquing the very platform of which my podcast is streaming live on. That's always fun. But anyway, we got to look at this stuff anyway. Oh, by the way, before we get into that, follow a Nichols Worth on YouTube, youtube.com/a Nichols Worth. It's a great place. And today's headlines, I should also mention, are sponsored by Parkour Therapy. Go to parkourtherapy.com and use the promo code ANW2021 for 10% off of your purchase. All right, now we can get into headlines. The first headline of the day says Facebook blocks highly targeted Iran-linked hacking campaign. This story coming out of Politico. Okay, let's get to the quick of it. Why should we care about this? Because there's a lot of things going on here that maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with here. But anyway, let's read the news first. Facebook has interrupted a sophisticated and highly targeted hacking campaign by a group that some experts have linked to the Iranian government, the company said Thursday. The hacker group is known as Tortoise Shell. Kind of like a turtle, but not really. It's tortoise. It's a big difference. As a turtle owner, I know this. Anyway, Tortoise Shell, they used Facebook and other social networks to trick military personnel and defense and aerospace industry employees into downloading custom malware that spied on victims and stole their data. They did this through Facebook after posing as recruiters, industry professionals, that kind of thing. They gained their online trust, if you will, set them up with these kind of links to these fake websites that were set up to basically collect their information, like fake login websites. And I actually thought that this was pretty significant just this week. And this was the first time that this has happened to me, maybe ever. But I thought it was interesting just this week. I got a text message that said the bank that I bank with, it had that name, and it said this bank, your account rather, at this bank, and it was all in caps, right? Like the bank was all in caps, has found that, your account is locked or something like that, right? Like we're about to shut down your account in so many words. And I was like, well, this is interesting, right? And, just for fun, I clicked on the link because it was on my phone. I had my iPhone, so I was relatively safe here. I clicked on the link, and it took me to a website that was very similar to what might be found on my bank's website. Like if you go to my bank's .com website, it looked kind of similar to a window that might be found there. It had your login information and your password. Had the little box there that said show my password, had another link underneath that said forgot my password, things like that. I mean, it looked exactly like the login. It looked exactly like it would have been if it was actually my bank. But it wasn't. First time this happened to me in my life this week. And I see this story here and I think, oh, man. I mean, I talk about data and information all the time, and I know it's not the sexiest topic in the world, but it is so important what our digital footprint is doing right now. Like the stuff that we do online, the places that we scroll, and the things that we click on, the things that we search, this footprint, that this digital footprint that we are leaving is it has already become tremendously important to companies that are making bank off of this. If you're wondering why there's all these hacks and these, security breaches and things like that, it's not just like a bunch of kids in their basement doing this for fun, somewhere in, the Baltic Sea or something on a boat. It's not how this works. These people are after mining data. That's what they want to do. They want to mine the data. Look at this. This was taken from the end of the article. I thought was crazy too. Many of the malicious sites collected information about victims' computers, which helped the hackers deliver malware that was customized to individual victims, right? The example that I used about that fraudulent text message that I received earlier about my bank this week, right? They had, whoever sent that, it's obviously not an individual, but whatever entity sent that to my phone had to know that I banked with this certain bank, right? And they had to know that if I am seeing something that's familiar to me, something that I might not make a public declaration of, but that only my bank and myself would probably know from a general perspective, that that's how we do business, right? That's who I do business with. It was individualized. It was customized to me. Now, did I ever tell my phone? Did I yell into my phone, hey, I bank with, such and such bank. I have an account, or I have 2 accounts, or whatever. Here's my bank information. Here's my, here's how you can get a hold of me. I've never intentionally given, if you will, my information and my data to my phone in that sense, but it knows. The reason why it becomes so important is because, we've also been trained sort of over the years how to kind of deal with this, right? Don't give out your personal information. Don't share passwords. Don't post things publicly on your social media that might give away some sort of details about your own personal information. We know this. We've been trained to do this. But our digital footprint and our data is more than just what we give these sites and these apps voluntarily. There's now ways of picking up what we hear, or what we say rather, what we type. People almost kind of think that it goes inside of our brain sometimes and anticipates what we're thinking. Well, that data, however it is mined and however it is collected, is out of control. And the social media sites that we have now, the Facebooks, the Twitters, that we have now, these sites are kind of acting as sort of little houses around these data breaches and these hacks. The houses say, look, you're on social media, you're free to post whatever you want. We're not going to restrict you, unless you're inciting a riot or something. We're not going to restrict what you can put online or what you can put on your social media. That's the whole grab of it. That's the whole pull of it. And so that has been kind of the standard. We start from there. And then we build out and we say, well, we got to protect everybody's right to, kind of be on here and say what they want and do what they want within the rules of the website, of course. And so, and everything else has to be hands off. Well, it's created this environment where Facebook and these other companies are too big and they are too powerful. I will keep saying it again and again. And the reason why they're too powerful is because there is no regulation of this aspect, your digital footprint. Your information is out there, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, because this is not a conspiracy. This is fact. Your information is out there being spread across who knows how many companies. I don't even want to say dozens or hundreds or thousands. I have no idea, but it could be thousands of companies that are continually sharing and recycling your data. It could happen. As a matter of fact, it is happening right now. Now, the decision on those companies to take action and give you a phone call and say, hey, your auto insurance is out of date and we got a deal for you. And I know just about everybody out there has received that call at least once in the last month or in the last 6 months. You've gotten that call. And obviously, you're not seeking auto insurance. It just is what it is, right? But that is not an accident. Your name didn't just get put on a list and your number didn't just pop up randomly from a computer generator, right? There's data that is attached to everything. And because we don't have any regulation on data, we have regulation on other stuff. but we don't have regulation on this just yet. So social media companies have the ability to do whatever they want in terms of handling how this data is protected or not so protected. I had a clip from not a clip rather, but I think the end of the piece, sort of talked about what Facebook's response was. Here it is. After deleting the hackers' accounts, right? This is what Facebook did. After deleting the hackers' accounts and blocking people from posting their malicious links, Facebook notified suspended victims and shared technical data with industry and law enforcement partners. Period. End. That's it. Here's this breach where, you had actors, other people that were from who knows where. It could be from Russia, it could be from wherever, right? But you had people posing as individuals on social media as a way of building trust with real individuals, with real people who have access to sensitive information. This is a problem. We as Americans, as people on the planet, have become consumed with our social media. And I don't mean that in an unhealthy way. Some of us, it's been unhealthy, but I mean that we are consumed in the sense that that what's happening on our screens has become a much, much larger part of our reality, not our hyper reality, not like the perceived reality. That's what kind of social media, I feel like that's where it started. But now social media is a much bigger part of our reality. And the devices that we use as phones, as adequately put by somebody who I was talking to, a friend of mine who I was talking with a little bit earlier about this, who said that we really should stop calling these things phones, right? Because calling somebody or receiving a call from somebody is such a minute part of what these devices actually do. These things are the remote controls for our lives. And everything that we plug into this remote control, unfortunately, is being recorded. And that data, especially shared over a wider network, becomes something that is not only valuable to these other companies, but something that should be regulated and protected by our government. And I know that more government regulation sounds like it sucks, and likely the process of government's regulations catching up to where we are in the social media process is low. The expectations are very low on that. But this is a very serious thing. Adversaries of other countries that want to injure the United States in some way, shape, or form are not going to fly over the states and drop a bomb on a major city like New York or Philly or Atlanta or LA. That's not going to happen, right? That's made for TV kind of stuff. Adversaries aren't going to start a ground war or an ideological war or anything else like that with the United States. Nobody wants to start wars these days. It's not how things work. This is how warfare will be, handled, if you will, from here on out. This is the new battlefield. And right now we have no walls of protection around those who can be targeted by this stuff. That's why it's a big deal. That's why I keep talking about this on this program. It's important. It is arguably the most important thing that we do not have a wrangle on as a country. And as a world, we don't have a wrangle on this. It needs to happen. Tell me what you think in the comment section of however you are listening. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Instagram tonight. That's where we're on. We are quad posting today. Quad streaming, whatever, however you want to put that. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll read your comment for you here on the screen. This story actually kind of leads into our next headline, too, and I'll be quick on this because this one is a really weird story. The Kremlin, which is basically like the Russian Pentagon, White House, Capitol building, whatever you want to say. Not Capitol building per se, but, kind of their official government central building, the Kremlin. This is where it all goes down over there in Russia. The Kremlin papers, according to this headline, appear to show Putin's plot to put Trump in the White House. A lot of T's and P's in that headline. But anyway, here's what this is basically saying here. The Kremlin papers, rather, that have been leaked from the Kremlin. That's a big deal here. I'll get to that in a second. Apparently lay out this plan where Vladimir Putin authorized a secret spy agency to support who they called a mentally unstable Donald Trump in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Yes, this is what we've all been suspecting, right? This is something that I've said for a long time. I don't know if it was Russians. I don't know if there's necessarily any reason for us to believe specifically that they were Russians. But what I say continually is that what we know for 100% certain is that there were foreign actors in the 2016 election that were actively attempting to sort of sway the minds of the American people in some kind of direction, right? There were people on both sides. There were fake accounts. There were fake groups. There was manipulation on both sides of the political spectrum that ultimately, at the end of the day, just made people more upset with each other than anything else. It created a wider gap of voter apathy in this country during the 2016 election, one that arguably could have allowed the president that did win, Donald Trump, to actually win. That could have been the thing that allowed him to win. My argument, right? So according to these documents that are supposedly leaked rather from the Kremlin, there was a meeting that happened early in 2016. It was in January of 2016. It's an important time in the election process, right? This is after Donald Trump has beaten out all the other Republican challengers. So it's just down to, at this point in the race, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. There's the only two candidates. And so that's when this meeting allegedly happened. And at this meeting, they said that a Trump White House would secure Moscow's strategic objectives, among them being social turmoil in the United States, among some other things. Russia's 3 spy agencies were then ordered to find practical ways to support Trump in a decree appearing to bear Putin's signature. Now, why is any of this important? Well, there's a few details about this story that I find kind of funny. Although important if true, like big if true, right? This document is basically saying that the suspicion that like people like myself and others have that Russia potentially was the sort of perpetrator behind what ends up being these fake accounts and these fake people that were riled up into these fake arguments before the 2016 election. Like, that's basically saying that Russia definitely did do it. And this was the inception of it. This was the official meeting that they all sat down, if you will, in the room and said, okay, are we going to disrupt this U.S. election or not? And I don't know if they like took a vote afterward and were like, okay, the yeses have it, the ayes have it. Let's go hack it. Let's develop this plan. How are we going to do it? Who are we going to support? And it just, to me, I mean, these documents were discovered, I guess, a couple of months ago. And experts and verification people and all this other stuff, I guess people with like big eyeglasses, magnifying glasses, have been looking at these documents for the last couple of months trying to figure out if they are legitimate. And we got word today that, according to these experts, yes, these documents are legitimate. Legitimate. Okay, so what that leads me to the conclusion of, and what I think we should take from this story, is that ultimately I don't think that these documents physically, they are real. They have been created. Maybe they even came from the Kremlin. But are these documents actually real? Is what's on the documents, this description, if you will, of how to hack the United States election? Are these is that ultimately the real part? I say no. The documents physically might be real, but what's on them is not. Listen, Russia is an adversary of the United States, and it's not a cartoonish sort of adversary like you see in the movies, right? This response, this document that allegedly has been found, sounds cartoonish. Like I said, it sounds like they created a movie scene with Vladimir Putin and all the other like top Russian dudes. Because I don't really think they believe in female leadership over there. But like all the top Russian dudes just like in a, room with like vodka and cigars or something. And they're all like smoking and, trying to figure out, okay, how do we, how do we do in the United States? This would be a great way to do in the United States, right? Here's this mentally unstable Donald Trump, right? Mentally unstable even is a phrase that we knew that Donald Trump was mentally unstable, for example, before the election. But that became a much more popular phrase to associate with Donald Trump after he was president. So to see that verbiage, if you will, in a document that was allegedly written before Donald Trump was ever president is suspicious to me. how specific the details of this are, right? Moscow's strategic objectives were to create a social turmoil in the United States. There's no way, I mean, I know there's a lot of intelligence agencies working on this kind of stuff all the time, right? But there's no way that in January of 2016, you could figure out, I mean, you can maybe put some of the pieces of the puzzle together, but there's no way that you knew for sure that it would create social turmoil. You knew something was going to happen, but it doesn't necessarily that. So I'm suspicious. In other words, I'm suspicious about the legitimacy of this document. But I do think that Russia is loving this. Russia's loving this. And the past 4 years that we've been trying to sort of place blame on what happened in the 2016 election squarely on the Russians themselves. We as Americans have done that a lot. We're so embarrassed, if you will, not all the time, the people that actually voted for Trump, but the people in America are so embarrassed by the presidency of Trump that we'd like to excuse it away by saying certainly something else happened. It wasn't the American people that collectively came together and made this decision to elect Donald Trump. Anything but that. Because Trump ends up being such a at best polarizing president, right? He didn't do the job of president all that well. And now the Americans have to grapple with that. They have to grapple with the fact that at least half the country or so, a little bit less, actually elected this guy to be president of the United States. And so as Americans, we are looking for a scapegoat. We're looking for somebody like a Russia to show up and say, it was them. They're the ones that did it. When I think the cold, hard truth of it is that we are at fault for our own election of our own leader here in this country. That was all us. But the interference that happened outside of that, which may or may not have been Russian, absolutely happened. And because there's no way for us to exactly tie this idea specifically back to Russia, Russia plays in the gray area. They love this. They love to see us spinning around trying to figure out whether or not it was them or not. Likely it wasn't, but who cares? So long as we spend enough time as the United States chasing our tails, trying to figure out what it's all about, then yes, we will have a more socially weak United States, as these documents have laid out. A socially divided United States. Vladimir Putin has been one of the critics, by the way, on the United States' inability to sort of get its racial issues together in this country. He has oftentimes sort of pressed into that wound of the United States, telling me that, look, the issues and the problems that the United States has with its freedom or lack thereof are known around the world. Maybe the United States is not known for its injustices. Maybe it's more so known for its freedoms and things like that. But it's not totally unknown in other countries what's going on socially here in the United States. And you got to be crazy if you think that Russia doesn't want to take it as an adversary of the United States, as the opposing team. You got to be crazy if you think Russia doesn't want to get in on that. Let me know what you think in the comments, though. Of course, my boy T commenting in, he says, this is my favorite show. I appreciate that, man. I'm just trying to be out here every single night and talk about what happened in the day. I love doing this. I love that you all join me for this show every day, too. Make sure you give this a share on your timelines. You get bonus points for that. I promise that you can redeem someday. Yes, someday. Actually, what time is it? Let's get into a quick break here. When we come back on the other side, we'll get to the other headlines that are going to be happening or that were happening today. We'll talk about a congresswoman who was arrested in the NFL's weird decision to go back to something that was painfully awkward the first time. So we'll talk about that on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Mr. Bernard, Parkour Athletic is apparel with a purpose. We're out to save the world and promote awareness for all ailments and disabilities.
When you do what you love, you're forever young, and you'll never, 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 never grow old. You'll never, 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 never grow old.
All right, folks, welcome back into the program. Make sure you leave your comments. Leave a share on the timeline, all that other good stuff. Would love to hear more from you. If you want to check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/ Nichols Worth. Make sure you subscribe. That's what all the cool kids are doing these days. They're subscribing, so make sure you do that at youtube.com/A Nichols Worth. All right, so let's get into some of the other stories that happened in the day. This one, I saw this go across the timeline. I couldn't pass this up. This headline coming from the Hill says Black Caucus chair arrested at Capitol during a voting rights protest. Now, folks, this is one of those headlines bit a whole lot harder than the story actually did. But let me read it for you. Congressional Black Caucus Chair Joyce Beatty, who is a congresswoman from Ohio. I'll be 100% honest with you. I did not realize that the Congressional Black Caucus had a new chair. That shows how much attention I usually pay to the Congressional Black Caucus, and also how much the Congressional Black Caucus attention is paid to me. But anyway, CBC Chair Joyce Beatty of Ohio led a group of pro-voting rights protesters into the Hart Senate office building Thursday afternoon, resulting in her being taken into custody. I don't have video or pictures of this event because it's not exactly exciting enough to put on the screen right now. But lots of pictures and tweets were taken. In case you want to check this out, you can actually go to the Congresswoman's Twitter page. You see that about 3 or 4 minutes before she was arrested, she tweeted out some things somewhere along the lines of, hey, we're being run amok here with these whole voting rights. Let me see if I can pull up the tweets here. We will not be turned around. We will keep walking. We will fight for freedom. We will fight for our right to vote. And it shows a picture of Beatty and several other African-American women who were linked arm in arm with her at this protest. According to The Hill, 3 minutes later, Beatty was being handcuffed by Capitol Police. This tweet was tweeted from her account right after. It says, "Let the people vote, fight for justice." In another tweet, that's what she said. So she got taken into custody by Capitol Police, by the way. The very police force that we've been talking about related to this January 6th insurrection and all that other stuff. And ultimately, at the end of the day, everybody gets to go home, right? Like, Congresswoman Beatty is not like sitting in a prison cell, like roughing it out for the night. This was all what we like to call a publicity stunt. Like, politicians do this, right? Like, they do things like this from time to time, but it's political. It's a particular type of political theater for Democrats. Because think about how all of this looks, right? A black woman who was hand in hand or arm in arm, however you want to look at it, with several other black women are here at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. At the Capitol, too, by the way, which has become a lightning rod of attention for various reasons, right? Here they are being arrested on Capitol grounds, and that they were, peacefully protesting voting rights abuses that are going on all over the country. More specifically, giving light to the idea that voting rights abuses are happening specifically to black women in this country. What is this all about? Well, if you tuned into the program yesterday, first of all, thank you. And secondly, you probably heard about this group of Texas Democrats that basically, within their state, the Republicans are trying to pass a restrictive voting rights bill. So instead of losing this bill, this group of Texas Democrats has decided to travel up to Washington, D.C. and just kind of like hang out there until the end of the session so that this bill cannot be passed. It's not necessarily a great strategy, but it is a strategy for sure. But anyway, it's a part of this long, sort of winded campaign trying to stop Republican legislators across the country from creating these restrictive voting rights bills. Earlier this week, Joe Biden was in Philadelphia. He gave a big rousing speech about voting rights, comparing this era of conservative legislative action, comparing it to Jim Crow, the Jim Crow South. I mean, this is an all-out, as I said, full-court press by the Democrats trying to get people to believe, if you will, that protecting voting rights is of the utmost importance. And I said that yesterday, too. I do believe that in a democracy, a pure democracy, protecting voting rights is important. But this theater today that we saw, a Democratic congresswoman, black woman, congresswoman being arrested, protesting voting rights, all plays into the Democrats' plan. Because here's what's really going to happen. Here's what's really breaking down about this story that you need to pay attention to here. Okay? If you don't hear anything else, listen to this. The Democrats know that their voting initiatives are going to fail. Let me say that again. The Democrats know that their voting initiatives are going to fail. They are up here on a platform, on a pedestal rather, saying, look, we represent the party that wants to expand the right to vote, and here is our legislative package that is going to do that. And they laid all that out a couple of weeks ago, right? And the Republicans, we've talked about them and how they behave on this show. They're stalwarts. They don't want to get anything done. The Republicans did exactly what we expected them to do, exactly what everybody in the world expected the Republicans to do. They unanimously voted in the Senate. They unanimously voted no. And in the House, too, but it doesn't really matter as much in the House. In the Senate, they unanimously voted no. Because that's what they do. You need 60 votes. In other words, you need at least 10 Republicans to say yes in order for this bill to pass. Democrats know that. Republicans know that. Green Party knows that. You know, everybody knows that, okay? So what we see right here, when we see a Democratic Congresswoman saying, you need to pass this bill or else I'm going to, be arrested. I'm going to protest my way into an arrest. It might sound patriotic and it might sound heroic and it might sound last standish, but it's not. She did this because the Democrats know this measure is not going to pass. So something like today, seems like a social justice warrior, a civil rights warrior who is willing to take an L despite the fact that she knows that nothing will come out of it. We're supposed to Congresswoman Beatty as some sort of hero here, and the Congressional Black Caucus as being a group of legislators that's actually doing something for people of color across the country. I don't want to go so far as to say that the CBC and other legislators are not doing anything for black people across this country. I don't want to go so far as to say that. But it's real hard for me to say anything else. It's real hard for me to prove that anything else is going on. Because this group and many others seem to prefer performative action over real action. We need to stop this. We need to stop this. Not necessarily this performative action. That probably needs to stop too. But what we need to stop is this idea that representation means simply speaking out for the right things. Demonstrating that you are on the right side. It should mean more than that. Our representative should mean more than that. It's why we're disillusioned with many of the processes that we have now for electing these individuals. We don't care about these people, and it doesn't seem like they care about us either. Because when the rubber meets the road, they can show you that they care, but they can't put that into action. And that's exactly why we elect these people. For actions, not performances, actions. So this falls into that category for me. It's frustrating. Frustrating to see this. I'm not attacking this woman, personally, as an individual. She should do whatever she wants. But let's not also, as black people, be used as pawns in this whole scheme, right? Democrats are going to love to put this on their pedestal later. Remember when Congresswoman Beatty was arrested on the steps of the Capitol fighting for freedom? Like, I can see the PSA now. I could write the PSA for the Democrats right now. Hire me. Not actually, though. I wouldn't enjoy that work at all. Tell me what you think. You can check out new episodes of A Nichols Worth in case you missed any this week or last week at anchor.fm/A Nichols Worth. Anchor.fm/A Nichols Worth. Let me get to my last subject of the night before we get out of here. And of course, the NFL found their way into the timeline tonight. We got word earlier today that the NFL for the 2021 season, the NFL for the 2021 season will include the Black National Anthem, social justice messages again. I pulled this headline from Fox News because I felt like for once they kind of encompassed my energy a little bit better than most other outlets on this one. Now, the rest of the story I wouldn't recommend reading, but the headline still rings true here. The NFL this season has committed to playing Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is sometimes known as the Black National Anthem, before every game this year. There's not enough padding on the wall to handle how much I wanted to just slam my head into it. Poof, poof. I mean, crazy. I saw somebody on Twitter earlier. I wish I would have liked the tweet so I could quote this person because, excuse me, this thought did not originate from my head, but the person on Twitter basically said, look, here goes the NFL giving us, as black people, things that we didn't ask for again. I couldn't agree more. Who asked for this? Who is in these? Is it Jay-Z? I know Jay-Z's partnering with the NFL now. He's supposed to be like some sort of black rep. I think Goodell goes to Jay-Z and says, hey, man, what's cool and what's hip in the black community? And Jay-Z says something, philosophical back. And then Goodell says, all right, cool, let's do something totally unrelated. And the do something totally unrelated part, this is what we're seeing right here. I mean, what are we doing with Lift Every Voice and Sing? What are we doing with the Black National Anthem? Just, I can tell you exactly how many days. 11 days ago, on the 4th of July, PBS ran a special, Let Freedom Ring or America the Free or something. They have these buzzwords for these 4th of July programs. But anyway, on this program, they had Vanessa Williams singing the Black National Anthem alongside the National Anthem or God Bless America, something like that as well, trying to sort of juxtapose both of these, as they say, national anthems, the Black National Anthem and the original National Anthem, trying to juxtapose them in the same spot. And it's just so awkward. Every single time it's so awkward, and I wish they would stop doing this. Not just the NFL, by the way. I wish everyone would stop doing this. PBS, CBS, ABC, ESPN, MOUSE, doesn't matter who you are. Please, please, from the bottom of all of our black hearts, please stop trying to insert the Black National Anthem in places where you don't know how to have conversations. Because that's what I think is really happening here. Why we keep coming back around to this same sort of thing. The problem here is not that we need to add another perspective in with our anthem singing, if you will, before sports games or whatever else we use the anthem for. That's not the point here. The point here is that a critical take has been happening with the anthem in the last several years, due in large part, obviously, to what Colin Kaepernick did, and what many others have been doing in his footsteps. We've taken an especially critical look at not only the anthem, but the process and what those words truly mean. We've taken a critical look at that, and the problem is with the anthem, the original anthem. We've recognized and realized that the anthem doesn't represent the fairness and freedom that it does to every individual represented in the games that they play. We've realized there's a discrepancy there. That's the problem. The problem cannot be solved by bringing in another anthem, if you will. One, by the way, that is not patriotic. The Black National Anthem is not the idea of patriotism that you're looking for before a sporting event. I'm sorry. Like, there's a lot of conservatives that are up in arms about this, as we expected. I don't think that's a surprise at all. But if there's anything that they're upset about, it's the idea that there's nothing patriotic, there's nothing that hypes you up and makes you proud about your country that's within the Black National Anthem. That's not what it's made for. It's not a patriotic tune. Not intended for patriotic audiences, if you will. Which is exactly who you're talking about and talking to when before sports games. That's who you're looking at. Grotesquely American sports and their fans. The Black National Anthem, as it's called, Lift Every Voice and Sing, it's like a song of struggle to me. Like, when I hear it, I think to myself, this anthem, if you will, this song was necessary because of the atrocities that people, attempted to create with the founding principles of this country. That's problematic. You can't just have both of them in the same space. And, until the NFL and other companies sort of are ready to have that conversation about fundamentally changing what happens before these games related to the anthem, not because the fans are on this side or on that side, but because it's the right thing to do. That's where the NFL kind of comes up short. But you look at other examples where this has happened. I mean, the MLB All-Star Game happened this week. It was in Colorado instead of Atlanta. For a number of reasons, because of Georgia's restrictive voting rights laws or restrictive voting rights bill. There, the All-Star Game was then moved to Colorado. Well, that was not a very popular business decision. Maybe a lot of us tipped our caps and said, "Hey, kudos to the MLB for taking a stand here," knowing that they're going to lose money and opportunities and all that other stuff. Well, it didn't play out. They didn't make up that money anywhere so far. That's what the numbers have told us. So for the NFL, the most popular sport in this country, for them to intentionally move away from what they think might be popular and move into a realm where they're starting to do things right no matter who is satisfied at the end of the day, is a step that the NFL has not taken. And it is one that at this point, given this news that we have today, is clear and evident that it is far away from. It is a step that is still very, very far away from the NFL. My days of being disappointed in them are not over, most certainly. As football season ramps up, we'll keep an eye on this. Certainly the first week, it's going to be something interesting to talk about as well. Leave your comments in the comment section if you have something to add to the conversation. That's all I have to add to this particular conversation. Make sure you're following me on social media at Keaton D. Nichols for more updates, post mini clips and other interviews and stuff like that. Go check out right now our interview with Doe Girl on the Anchor page, anchor.fm/A Nichols Worth, a special interview there. And any episode missed from our daily show, you can find right there as well. Spotify, you can also listen to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, however you listen to A Nichols Worth, that's how you search it, and that's how you get there as well. All right, I am out of here. I will see everyone on next week on Monday, as I will be off tomorrow. Appreciate the folks for joining me this whole week. You guys have been great. I will see you all next week. Everyone have a great and safe weekend.